Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and this is my review for Napoleon, the latest historical epic from Ridley Scott, and stars Joaquin Phoenix as the title character. This movie is basically about Napoleon's rise to power, how he becomes a general in the French army, how he eventually becomes emperor, and just leads his army to several wars, and pretty much changed the course of history for the worst. I had mixed opinions about this movie when it came time to actually see it for myself, because I really liked the trailers, but also it was Ridley Scott. Now, Ridley Scott has made a lot of movies that I absolutely love, like of course Alien and Blade Runner being the two that everyone goes to, but I really love The Martian as well. I also know that Ridley Scott's career has been very sketchy compared to other big-name directors, because I didn't like Prometheus all that much. Alien Covenant is atrocious. House of Gucci, which I did see but I didn't get around to reviewing it, was so bizarre that I didn't know if it was supposed to be a comedy or it was a weird movie, I'll just say that. Lady Gaga is incredible, and Adam Driver was good as well, but everything else was just so ridiculous, especially Jared Leto. So I didn't know if that movie was supposed to be a comedy or if it was an accidental comedy. The point to all that is, I didn't know what Ridley Scott I was going to get. Was I going to get the Ridley Scott that made The Martian? Was I going to get the one that made Alien Covenant? Or was I going to get the one that made House of Gucci? And for my money, the Ridley Scott that ended up directing Napoleon is kind of a mix between The Martian and House of Gucci, where it's a really good movie. It's very well made, has a lot of good elements to it, but there are some very questionable decisions where you're like, was that intended to happen? Let me start off with the positives of this movie. You can tell that a lot of money went into this and it was well spent, because the production value is there. It's got some fantastic costumes and an amazing sense of scope when it comes to a lot of the invasion sequences that happen. The action scenes are pretty good as well. They're well shot, well staged, and can be pretty violent, like shockingly so. I don't think I've ever seen a movie that involves so many people and horses just getting annihilated by cannonballs. For me, I'm more familiar with what Pirates of the Caribbean did, where people get shot by cannons, but really the cannonballs hit the ship and people go flying from the debris. No, in this movie, people are losing limbs, they are getting directly hit by cannonballs, and there's a scene in the beginning involving a cannonball and a horse that I won't spoil, but when it happened, I went, oh shit. So the money is there when it comes to those specific sequences. And also the cast is really good as well. You got Joaquin Phoenix in the lead role as Napoleon, which, yeah, I know he's supposed to be a French leader, but he has no French accent whatsoever. I thought that would bother me initially, because I would like these historical epics to be a little more authentic, but it didn't bother me at the end of the day. And despite Joaquin Phoenix kind of basically playing himself, he is good in the role. He is really one of the great actors that we have working today. And Vanessa Kirby as Josephine is fantastic as well. There are good chunks of the movie where it is focused on their marriage, and when you really think about it, if this is indeed historically accurate, Napoleon was really insecure. I honestly don't know how historically accurate this relationship is, but considering how history has kind of repeated itself with these dictators or wannabe dictators, won't say any names, I could easily believe that this was something that really did happen, and this is where some of the unintentionally funny moments come in, because you don't really know if the movie's trying to be played for laughs or trying to make Napoleon sympathetic because of his insecurity. I've heard some people who have watched this movie say, yeah, they make Napoleon out to be sympathetic, and he is not a person that should deserve any kind of sympathy whatsoever considering his legacy. I didn't really get that impression with this movie. It's not like with Joker, where that movie really did try to make this unstable, murdering psychopath sympathetic and somebody to rally behind. No, in this movie, I never got the impression that they were trying to make Napoleon sympathetic. I thought Ridley Scott was portraying him as really an insecure little man, and by the time we got to the Battle of Waterloo, I was rooting for the other side. I found myself invested in this movie, and having conversations about it with my dad, he told me about a lot of the big historical moments that this movie didn't address. But considering that Ridley Scott has talked about a longer version of this movie being released on Apple TV+, I'm curious to see if those moments will actually play into the extended cut, but I don't really think I'll be going out of my way to see the extended cut, because it's a really good movie, but I didn't see it as great. There are a few issues with it, one being the runtime. It didn't really bug me all that much, but it was very long. There were a few scenes that I thought could have been shorter, and not to mention that some of the dialogue in this movie is beyond atrocious. There are two lines of this movie that are so out of nowhere, so absurd, that I had to keep myself from laughing at them. There is one line in particular that I heard of before seeing this movie, and that line is, "Destiny has brought me this lamb chop." I'm like, okay, that's a real line in this movie. But the other absurd line that caught me completely off guard was when Napoleon shouts, "You think you're so great because you have boats?" And the entire audience was laughing. And I should probably mention that this wasn't like a paid screening. This wasn't something with general moviegoers. This was a press screening full of critics that see everything, and they were laughing at that line. And I thought, is this supposed to be funny? Because I could honestly buy that House of Gucci was meant to have comedic moments, but this is played to be a little more serious, and so these two lines of dialogue feel so out of place. To be totally honest, if you had the Time Squad showing up in the middle of this movie, that would have been more realistic than these two lines of dialogue. So it's because of some of these comedic moments that I can't really go out of my way to say it's a great movie, but it is really good, and that's, I guess, my rating, good but not great. The production value's there, it's got some great battle sequences, Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby give really good performances, and it's very well directed. But again, those few moments, those few comedic moments, perplexed me so much that I couldn't tell if they were intentional or not. So this is not a movie that would end up on my best of the year list, but it's a pretty good one at the end of the day. And there you go, that's my review for Napoleon. I hope you enjoyed it, and now I want to know what you guys think about the movie. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day, and take care of yourselves.